No, I wasn't
We're
either.
live. We are live. Oh, and all of a sudden, a load of comments just appeared. I'd only seen Chris's pop up. Hello, hello. Good evening. Welcome. It is Friday, the 8th of January, 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Well, here in London, obviously, and where Becca is.
Yeah.
Will not be 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time if you are not in the UK. Welcome to the final installment of the Literary Witches Project. This is the wrap up, the roundup of the entire project, the whole 12 months. We've got to cover all the books that we read, all the writers. We got some questions. I've sent Becca some questions to ponder. And yeah, I want to know those of you in the chat that read, some or all of the books. I know there's people in here that like did the whole thing, and I'm so impressed. Thank you. Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts. Becca wants to hear your thoughts. And let's say hello to who's in. We've got Chris is here, Elemental Cartomancy. Hello. Laura, Aquamarine 18. Naomi is here. We've got Blue Crescent Tarot. Hello. Tapped out for the weekend. Did all I can with work. Well done, you. Jennifer Rebecca is here. Long hair, skinny-eyed toe. Hello. Laura says, technically not back at work yet from holidays, but have been doing lots of prep, but done for now. Yay for Fridays. And Simon of the Hermit's Cave is here. Hello, my love. So, Becca, do you have the list of all of the books and the people we read there? Okay, Becca, do you mind giving the rundown?
The rundown? What, of the questions that we're going to...
Not the questions, the order of who we read in what months, what books. Do you have that, or do you want me to do
that, Kelly?
No, okay. No, because I've literally just got them here right next to me.
Look at that. Because most of mine are on audiobook. I do have actually three hard copies. My Octavia Butler book, though, my sister has got.
Yeah, you're an Octavia. So okay, so just for a quick roundup, I'll run through them. So in January, and in number 12 of January, we started off with Faruga Farrokhzad, Iranian poet, and her collection of poetry, Sin. For February, we had Black American writer Octavia E. Butler, and she's sort of a bit of a sci-fi writer. Kindred was the book that we read. In third place, it's not in an order, it's just the third month. In March, we had Chinese writer Eileen Chang with Half a Lifelong Romance. In April, we had again another Black writer. It was really good. We had real diversity in this, and that's all credit to the book and the deck. Was Toni Morrison with Beloved. In May, we had Sylvia Plath with the Bell Jar. In June, we had folklorist and anthropologist Zora Neale Hurston. In July, we had Victorian American writer Charlotte Perkins Gilman with short story The Yellow Wallpaper. Did I say with Mules and Men? I did, yeah. For August, we had Argentinian Jewish poet Alejandra Pizarnik with Extracting the Stone of Madness, which again is a collection of her works. We had another poet in September. We had American poet Emily Dickinson and her collected poems, the first series through to the third. For October, we went spooky and went with the OG goth girl Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley and her book Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus. For October, we had Native American Muskogee Creek Nation poet Joy Harjo, poet and musician Joy Harjo. And finally, rounding off the year in December, we had American writer, minimalist and sort of modernist writer, art collector, and butch lesbian Gertrude Stein. That was quite a mix there we had.
We did, yeah. And we had a lot of poetry.
We did. I actually, although, like, obviously, for example, there were some that we could have read poetry for. So Gertrude Stein's also a poet, but we obviously read the autobiography. And then also, obviously, Sylvia Plath is a poet, but we read her novel, The Bell Jar. So we could have easily ended up with reading 6 poets. We did read 6 poets, but some of them also wrote novels or biographies. So we've got some more people in the group chat. We've got Joe L. Hello. Neem is here. Essence 818. Claire Gerhardt is here as well. Lovely to see you all. How great is this? Why is Simon saying hell no? V Kestrel. Hello. Why is Simon saying hell no? Rona is here. Hello, Rona, my love. So yeah, real mix of people in as well. Oh, it's poetry. Becca is a total poetry slag. Admit it. Can you see the chat?
I can't. Unfortunately, I can't because I've got the list on my phone.
Morel going, Becca is a total poetry slag. Thank you, Naomi. I made them this week. I might be putting them in my Etsy shop. Not these ones. These are mine. If people like them, I don't know. But I made these on Wednesday afternoon, and then I logged onto the news and saw everything kicking off. And I was like, oh, hell no. What apt timing.
Yeah,
anyway,
perfect.
We've got some questions. We might as well just get stuck right in. Wendy Grant, hello. Are you doing it all again this year? Not this year. I need a break. I think Becca needs a break from all the poetry.
Yeah. Done with the poetry.
Yeah, I just want to just read what I want to read without the stress of having to read a particular thing, because I felt like I could never read anything else unless I was reading. I had to be reading what I was meant to be reading, and I couldn't read anything else unless I'd finished what I'd reading. And I've been having such terrible concentration issues, especially with the pandemic, which has just fried my brain. So I had very little concentration for reading anyway. So I'm like, let's just read what we want. Susie is here and says it's been a great year for this project. So yeah, hello, Jennifer's, Rebecca. Yeah, everyone's going on about the earrings. Okay, so do you want to tell us what the first question is, Becca?
Okay, so the first question is our top 3 favourite books of the challenge.
And I want you to go from 3rd to 1st. So do you want to answer that first? Or should we go, okay, you do your 3rd and I'll do my 3rd, and we'll do it in that order.
Okay,
actually, so and then I'm going to hold it up. My 3rd favourite.
Okay, so mine in 3rd favourite was our book that we read by Emily Dickinson.
Mine is How We Became Human by Joy Harjo. So we both picked poetry for our 3rd favourite. I'm impressed, Miss. I don't do poetry, but I'm picking it in number 3.
Some of it was okay, so only some. So in my 2nd place, I picked Toni Morrison's book, Beloved. Okay. So my 2nd favorite, it's like Jenga. I'm trying to get the books. My 2nd favorite was The Bell Jar. I've got this hardback fancy version because it was the only one I could get a hold of at the time, by Sylvia Plath. So hang on, let's go back. So why did you pick Emily Dickinson for 3rd? Well, partly because I kind of resonated with her as a person more than I did the other kind of poets. In some ways, she seemed a lot more real. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It was because a lot of the other poets that we've had seemed really detached almost from I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And also I feel like she has a very how to explain it, it's not overly flowery. She actually writes in quite plain language, but she has a very interesting way of structuring it.
Yeah, I didn't read it and think, what the hell was that I just read? I've got no idea what they were talking about. So that's why I picked her. Yeah, I found it easy to relate to. Although I'm not saying I totally understood or liked everything that she did, but I thought I should pick a poet as my third, because yeah, I didn't want to appear to be a total poetry slag.
Right, yeah, you didn't want to do all three as poetry, obviously.
No.
Yeah, I picked Joy Harjo. This one was a real surprise to me because I'd hadn't heard much about her before the project, and then I started learning about her, and she sounded really cool. But what really surprised me was her poetry felt so much like prayer, and so much like and devotionals, to the point where I can use them in ritual and in like part of my offerings, and it feels entirely apt, and it's very animist, and I dug it so much, and yeah, so that was really cool. So, and then your second one, you said you picked Beloved. What made you pick Toni Morrison's Beloved?
Well, because she wrote this from the heart, right? This story that she wrote. What I mean, I wish a lot of those people that we saw on the news could really relate and read some of the works from women like this. So that is why.
Or if they could even just read, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. The fact, yeah, that she wrote this from the heart, and about how life was or is for her in that kind of setting. So that's why I picked her, because again, I like to feel when I'm reading that there's some realness coming through, rather than somebody just sitting down and writing some airy fairy stuff.
Yeah.
I like to be able to read it and know that it's coming from a place from right within, from an understanding of what it's like to live what's written on the page.
Yeah, agreed. I'm just gonna have a quick look through the chat just to catch up. Naomi says, I didn't do that well. I only read 3 books. Well, that's 3 books read. I'd say that's still bloody good, right? It's better than no books. So I think you did really well. Let's just see. Claire says it's just after 8 a.m. Saturday. Are you in are you in Australia or New Zealand, Claire? Joe says,
tomorrow.
Yeah, so you're in the future. Joe says, definitely feels an age ago now. So much life in the last 12 months. Agreed. And also, unfortunately, so much death. It's been a tough one to do. I have to say, doing this project in the middle of a pandemic has not been the one. Let's see. There was something somebody else was saying. Oh, Simon's saying you have to why are you asking why I'm saying hell no? because of my earrings. I'm such an idiot. I was like, why is he saying hell no? Oh my god. Claire says, how's your health? Let's not go there. It's a lot of reading. I'm slow at the moment, says V Kestrel. Haven't finished a book in ages, but go gentle on yourself. Kay Thompson is here, and Paper Moon Tarot is here. Lovely to see you both. And they've enjoyed the project. People commenting on how lovely you look, Becca, which is awesome. She does look lovely. People talking about how much they love Beloved. They're agreeing with you. So Octo123, sorry, what is today's topic? Today's topic is literally just a roundup of the Literary Witches project that we ran last year. Oh, Naomi's answered as well. Thank you, my dear. So, and Jackie Jacaranda's made it. Hello, my love. And wrote Naomi, who was it? Naomi's just put puff puff. So what did I say I picked? I picked the Bell Jar. Again, this one was another surprise for me because you always think, well, I always think of Sylvia Plath and the way what she's linked to and how she's tied to depression and how she's tied to, you know, her relationship, her marriage, and how she's, you know, and how her life ended, and that sort of overshadowed everything. And then I read this book, which yes is a journey about mental health, but it's so darkly humorous and so relatable. There's so many things, and the way that she wrote, there's some really just delicious turns of phrases in this book. Obviously some problematic stuff as well. Some of the terms that she uses are very outdated and of their time and would be incredibly problematic now. But overall, like, really just loved this book, and I was surprised by how much it made me laugh. So that got and I whipped through this one, and I just love how sparkly it is. That was my second one. And so shall we hold up our top number one book, because I think we've got the same one. Oh no, we can't. I think I know which one it is. Okay. Do you want to tell? We'll go 3, 2. We'll say it on 1. 3, 2, 1. Kindred.
Octavia Butler.
Yeah, Kindred.
Kindred. Absolutely.
Hands down.
I loved this book. I had it on Audible, and I put it on at, I think it was like 7 a.m. in the morning. And I listened to it for the entire day because I couldn't stop one chapter from another. I thought it was a totally amazing book. It dealt with so many important subjects, so relevant to today and the time that we're living in now, and the fact that people so easily forget that the reason why things like slavery were abolished. They seem to just, it's as if history has not, they don't know anything about history at all. So to hear her write about what it was to live in that time, and to read quite graphic instances in that book. The science fiction side of it, I just love that moment when you get to the start of the book and she goes through that wall.
Her arm through the wall.
Arm through the wall. That was it. I was totally hooked. So
it's funny, we had the exact same experience, and I remember saying to you, like, from the first page I was like, oh shit, this is going to be good. Because it grabs you literally from the first page, and it holds you like this. I couldn't put this down. And I think there's something very accessible about the way Octavia, I mean, this is the only one of her works that I've read, but there's something very accessible and down to earth the way that she writes. It's not overly flowery. She's not using sort of, you know, she's not thrown a thesaurus at it. Like, it's just really readable.
Yeah, totally. And her as a person too. I'm just reading this tiny little bit that in the book that it says that she's the daughter of a housekeeper and a shoe shiner. She was a pioneer in a very white, male-dominated genre of science fiction. So she was one of the first to kind of dabble her toe in that. How spectacular was that?
Trailblazer.
Yeah.
And it feels really strange because we even said this at the time when we did the live discussion for this particular book, that we were saying, you know, that it's about such an intense subject matter, you know, and yet somehow it's engrossing, but there's nothing ever sensationalist or she's handled it very sensitively, because obviously she knows how to handle that subject, because it's something that is important and close to her, right? So
yeah,
it just exactly. But yeah, to say that one of my favorite book that we read was one about, you know, plantation owners and, well, as I like to call them these days, forced labor camps, because that's exactly what they were. Calling them plantations makes them sound like some lovely old timey farm, which they fucking weren't. And yeah, enforced labor camps and slaves, but just so good, so good. It really clipped along, that one.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely. Yeah.
So what's our second question?
Our second question is favorite writer as a person. And I'm going to pick the same again for Octavia Butler. I just, yeah, she was a pioneer of about so much, and, you know, kind of battled against not only prejudice against her race, but prejudice because she was a woman, and also prejudice because she was writing science fiction, which was, you know, in a male domain. Not only that, because she explored, as it says in her little write-up, explore the power dynamics between sexes, races, and species. So yeah, she really covered it all. So yeah, that's, I could not pick her.
That's a very good. Do you know what? It was a toss up between Octavia Butler and this other person, but I ended up going for Zora Neale Hurston. And I think it was, I mean, I found some really great quotes from Octavia Butler, which I think I put in my bio video, but I couldn't find a huge amount about her, considering how well known she is and how loved she is. But Zora Neale Hurston, oh my goodness, I mean, I had heard about her several months previous. I mean, like maybe like the late summer, early autumn of 2019, because I'd listened to an episode of the Missing Witches podcast where they did a whole episode on her, and I was like, who is this woman? She sounds like a riot. And so when she turned up, I found out she was in the book and the deck. I was like, oh, but she, I mean, you know, she was the one that I was hoping was going to turn up in, like, I was like, if I get one that I want this year, I want her. And she popped up because I wanted to do a deep dive into her, and she was just so interesting and just such a character. Just this, so she wrote her own mythology. She knocked 10 years off her life for the best part of her life. You know, she again, another trailblazer, award-winning, like amazing, interesting, problematic in some instances. You know, all of these women are complex. They're all complex human beings in their own right, but yeah, just really interesting. So she was my favorite. Let's see. Joe says Kindred is triggering for me. That's understandable. It's not going to be for everyone. I can understand how some people are not going to be able to not want to read that subject matter, which again, it's difficult. There are certain things that I probably wouldn't go near. Luckily, I didn't really have to deal with much of that in this project, thankfully. Yeah, Laura Aquamarine 18 says that she would pick Butler as well. Lilith's Brood, yeah, the trilogy. That's on my list to read. Let's see. And she says her Kindred was her favourite. Just seeing if there's any other. Wood Thrush Cottage is here. Hello, lovely to see you, Diane. And Fairy Wren Whispers is here. Hello, lovely to see you all. This is so nice. Okay, so question 3.
Question 3 is least favorite book of the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I could have picked quite a few,
Mm-hmm.
but the last book that we read, which was from Gertrude Stein, the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas, I hated it. Not least because it wasn't an autobiography, not least because I couldn't stand Gertrude Stein and I was really pissed off.
I love how you went off in the last one we did, the last live.
The only flipping butch lesbian in the book, and I was so disappointed. What a freaking letdown she was to me.
I was hoping for some sapphic action. There was
nothing.
No such thing. No salacious tidbits, nothing.
Nothing. And it was, to me, it was just a look, just I'm fabulous all the way through. Nothing about, nothing about Alice at all, apart from a tiny little bit at the beginning. So, yeah, so disappointed. She has to go down as my least
favorite book
and person.
We're going to get to it there. Okay, so my least favorite book, I'm going to have to say the one that I actually struggled, because I actually enjoyed the first half of the Alice B. Toklas book, because I was really interested in hearing about all the artists, that I'd studied, during my art studies and my degree and stuff. So I found that fascinating, but it started as it got into the war stuff, and and we had less of that. I was less and less interested. But the one for me that I struggled with the most was Alejandra Pizarnik, the poet. I found out of all the poets that we did, and we did 4 poetry collections last year. Hers was and I admit I am a fan of poetry. I am a poetry person, and I found this the hardest to connect to. When I think how much I sort of fell for Emily Dickinson and for Joy Harjo, and even I know you struggled with Furuga, but there was some really powerful stuff for me for Furuga. But yeah, this one, the Alejandra Pizarnik, struggled with the most. Just very angsty, and actually there was a lot of repetition of themes, but it was all very I don't know, I felt like I was reading someone's diary, angsty diary poetry. Wasn't my fave.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, what's our 4th question?
Question 4 is least favorite writer as a person.
So we've had our favorites. Who's our least favorite? Well, we know who yours is.
It's got to be her, Gertrude Stein. What an entitled! Right from the very beginning, couldn't even be bothered to do her exam work, and thought that she should just pass anyway because she was fabulous. No. So that just coloured all the way through. I couldn't get past her in her entitlement, not just once, but for most of her life, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to say my least favourite writer as a person is Gertrude Stein. Yeah. For the same reasons. Big talk, really rates herself. She's got chutzpah, I'll give her. She's got some cojones on her, but at the same time, yeah, I do feel like she was incredibly entitled, like you said. And yeah, like the thing you were saying about the drawing, the the drawing competition or something, and then she got her brother to do it or something, and then like
she won the prize and then lost it on the way home.
Like, she didn't even care. Like, it didn't mean anything to her. And I'm just like, and also I really struggled with her links to the Vichy regime and her defense of like literal fucking Nazis.
Yeah,
I find that quite difficult to get through, and weirdly also quite relevant today. So yeah, I was just like, you know what, not really into the Nazi sympathizers and white supremacist types, which is weird because she was Jewish. And again, there's a lot of speculation, was it self-preservation? But I think when you then get her defending after the war people from the Vichy regime and speaking the praises of fucking despots, and she's also like what's the word, donating money to funds so they can escape from prison. Like, that's hardcore. That's not, oh, I was just doing it to survive the war as a Jewish person. The war is over and you are donating money so people, the actual Nazis and Vichy people from the Vichy regime can escape prison. I just couldn't get past that.
A Jewish woman, yeah. As a Jewish woman, I find it so hard to get my head around that. Why?
She was a Jewish lesbian. She was two of the things that the Nazis would wanted to destroy and eradicate.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense to me at all.
So yeah, I found her pretty, I have to say I struggled, and I'm actually glad that the book was at least meant to be from Alice's point of view, because I think if it had actually been from Gertrude's point of view, I probably would have thrown the book across the room within about 10 pages. So maybe that was a blessing in disguise. Anyway, so I just went on a bit of a rant because it is a little bit of a touchy subject at the best of times, but this week, oh my god. Anyway, a nice question. Question 5. What's question 5, Becca?
Question 5 is, who do you want to read more of? Well,
and it doesn't have to be one, it could be several.
Well, probably I'm going to stick with Octavia Butler because I am fascinated to read her novel that is listed here, starring an immortal shape-shifting African woman, and that is Wild Seed. So I can imagine that being equally as gripping, because it contains all the elements almost that the other book did.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also her thought-provoking stories, I think they're going to be fascinating as well. So those, everything listed on here, I want to read, and probably a lot of things that aren't listed on here.
Yeah, same. I'm going to say my number one underlined was Octavia E. Butler, 100%. The next fiction I want to read is going to be Octavia Butler. I'm like, oh my God, I'm looking at the list of her stuff and I was like, I don't know what to pick. So yeah, I'm gonna have to pick something and dive in, but I can't wait. I also want to read More Joy Harjo, because we only focused on several poems in this. I want to read more of this poetry, but also her autobiography. I really want to read that. So that's on my list to read for 2021, or as I'm calling it, 2020, the sequel. And then I also really want to read more Toni Morrison, for sure. The Bluest Eye. There was, what was the other one that I had on my list? There was The Bluest Eye, and there was another one that she had that was, there was because there's like a trilogy of them almost. I wanted to read that. Song of Solomon, that was it. So those were my top 3 to read in 2021. I'm going to have a look. Yeah, Song of Solomon, says Joe. Yeah, that was the other one. And The Bluest Eye are the two that I've got on my list. So Val, oh, hi Val. Val says Zora Neale Hurston and Toni Morrison. Laura says Toni Morrison and Eileen Chang. Rona says Joy Harjo. Laura says, I gave up on Stein's book before I got to any of that part, i.e. the Nazi stuff. Blue Crescent Tara says, yeah, she's a pretty terrible person, I'd say. Annette Cruz, hello, nice to see you. Jackie says she was up herself. Lisa Amber, hello, good evening. Rona calls her a narcissist. So yeah. Laura says, I think maybe Charlotte Perkins Gilman as a least favourite person for me, but it's hard to say not knowing all of their biographies equally well. That was the thing. Charlotte P. Gilman would have been my next least favourite, but it's really tricky because she had really awful views regarding race, right? But then she was not that I'm making excuses, but she was unusual in the early feminist movement because she actually championed the rights of working class women and was very interested in helping working class women, obviously, as long as they were white, clearly. But a lot of suffragists and suffragettes of that movement, those movements, they were just only interested in middle and upper middle class and upper class women. They really didn't give a shit about working class women. So she was different in that way, and I think her writing's really interesting. But yeah, she was like a close second for me, but Gertrude just pipped it because she literally donated money to allow someone that was part of the Vichy regime he actually escaped from prison, and she had paid funds towards that. And I'm like, and the fact that she was actually Jewish and a lesbian just like compounded that. I was like, oh hell no.
Yeah, the mind just boggled.
Hell no. I can't get everything's reversed on bloody StreamYard. I can't work out.
It is. It's but you're in the right. Yes is on that. Looks like hell no. So it looks right.
It's just when I'm touching them, my hands it's all flipped around on the screen for me. Yeah, Joy Harjo is still going strong. She sure is. She's 69, so she's still with us. And I don't know, actually, I think that Joy Harjo is the only writer whose work we read who is actually still with us today out of all of them that we read. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So do you want to go to the next question, or?
Yeah, do you want to go ahead? What's question 7?
So question 7, no, 6. Oh no.
6. Yeah, 7. Oh no, 6. Yeah, sorry.
6 was Who Do You Never Want to Read Again?
Yeah.
Have we just done that one?
No.
So who do I never want to read again? I would never. It would be again.
Our favorite.
Gertrude Stein. If I never saw one of her books again, it would be too soon.
Yeah, same for me. I wasn't a massive fan of the way she wrote. She had some interesting turns of phrases and some interesting points. I mean, I tabbed the absolute crap out of this book. You know, there were some really interesting parts, but it was funny because a lot of the stuff that I bookmarked was like really interesting stuff about the artists. And I was like, oh, that's a really interesting thing Picasso said. That's an interesting thing that Picasso did. Oh, what did Cézanne do there? Like, that was like, it wasn't so much like her actual story. Does that make sense?
It does.
But yeah, other than that, I'm like, if I never have to read any more Gertrude Stein for ever again, I'm good.
Yeah.
Let's see if anyone else says they didn't. Eileen Chang is very interesting. Yeah, that was the thing I really struggled because a lot of the information about Eileen Chang was in Chinese. The information hasn't been translated. It was really hard for me to do a really comprehensive biography video of her. But I think her life sounded incredibly interesting, and that her early days, and then her move to Hong Kong and stuff like that sounded really interesting. And let's see if there's any other comments. Yeah, we don't know enough about her. So yeah, neither of us want to read Gertrude Stein. Anyone they don't want to ever read again? Question 7.
So question 7 is, which book or writer surprised you? Well, I didn't know hardly any of the authors that we looked at. So I would have, the only one that I did know was Gertrude Stein, and I didn't know obviously enough about her. I knew she was kind of I knew she was lesbian, and that always intrigued me. But they say you should never meet your heroes, right? And I'd never read any of her literature until we did this project. I knew about her, so I read kind of things that other people said about her. So to actually pick up a book and read some of her own words and thoughts, it really surprised me in a way that I wasn't expecting. I wanted to be surprised in a good way, not surprised in a what the fuck kind of way.
You were surprised by your disappointment?
Yeah, I was surprised by her. I was surprised by her, somebody with all that kind of influence that she could have had in a positive way. I think she really squashed and let herself down, in her actions and her thoughts, her support of things. So yeah, that she did surprise me as a writer, because it was like an eye-opener. You should really read a little bit deeper, I think. It's never a good idea to look at somebody and think, wow, she's a bit of a pioneer for her time. And that's if you just scratch the surface. But it's always a good idea to take a good look at what makes somebody tick. Yeah. And sadly,
I would say the writer, the book that surprised me for its humor was The Bell Jar. I wasn't expecting that, but I've already said that. But I'd say the writer that surprised me was Emily Dickinson. And I'd seen a video several months before, which I did link underneath my bio, which was about Emily Dickinson and the film that had been made about her, which was a lot closer to who she really was, and which I'd really like to see, actually. But what really surprised me about them, the more that I dug into her life, she's painted as this woman that always wore white dresses, that was very reclusive, that was very, virginal and innocent. And actually, it's like she was queer. guys, they're not just gal pals, just gals having fun. Like her, and is it Susie? Was it Susie? What was her? Oh my god, my brain. What did we do? Was it September? Emily Dickinson. Meow 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 meow. Hang on, let's see. What was her? Slovenia. I'm trying to find my notes here. Where she talks about Susie. Yeah, Susie. Her brother's wife, so her sister-in-law. They were
that's legit, right. Yes,
legit in love. I was just so captivated by this. They wrote 300. She wrote 300 letters to her, and they lived literally next to each other on the same bit of land, on the same homestead. It's
yeah, I mean, that would have been, can you imagine putting yourself in her position? That would have been torture.
But also, they like clearly got away with it underneath everyone's noses, because people don't suspect them. They're like, oh, they're just girls hanging out, gal pals, having fun. And you're like, So they got away with it. And also, like, you know, people were like, oh, she was really reclusive and didn't see anyone. I would say, as a lot of the research indicated that I was looking into, is that she's actually just really selective, and she just knew who she did and didn't want to see. And she was very clear on that. And if she didn't want to see you, she wasn't going to see you. But she had a small circle of friends that she saw throughout her life. So she wasn't, you know, just because she didn't want to like go out on the town all the time. I mean, Jesus, I haven't been out for almost a goddamn year with this pandemic. You know, like, it's not. But yeah, she really surprised me, because she was actually a lot more fun and mischievous than she's been painted to be by male academia. But now we've got more women researching her and actually sort of really looking at her and going, yeah, they're not just friends, like
Yeah, it's like when you look back in history, like the women did live together, where they used to say, oh, they're companions. And I wonder, that used to be the done thing, companions. But I wonder what percentage of those companions were actually a couple.
Yeah,
Kelly, I've got a dog at the door.
Oh, you go, you run.
So the next question was, if you answer first, and I'll pick it up afterwards. Who were you hoping to turn up in the project that didn't?
And when I actually sent this question to Becca, I realised something that we had agreed to, which I completely forgot about, pandemic brain, until I wrote this question to Becca yesterday. I would like to have seen Angela Carter. I'd be intrigued to read the sort of her fairy tale stuff. Sandra Cisneros, I was wanting to read some of her. I had heard good things about her, and we didn't read any sort of Latin American or Latino writers in this project. None of them. I know, tell a lie, we did. We had Alejandra Pizarnik, because she was an Argentinian Jew, but I didn't enjoy her poetry. But Sandra Cisneros sounds really cool, and I would have been totally down with some Shirley Jackson. And actually, when me and Becca were talking about doing something spooky for October, it was going to be either The Haunting of Hill House by oh my god, Shirley Jackson, brain fart, or the or Frankenstein. And we went with Frankenstein, mostly because I already owned it. And also, like, you know, she's the Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley is the OG goth girl, so we had to have some of that. But there's another one, but I'm not going to mention her. I'm going to wait for Becca to come back, because I have a feeling that Becca's going to mention her, and I'll say what I messed up. Yeah, fairy tales. Some of the stuff was quite heavy stuff. Yeah, I have heard that it could be slightly some heavy. Yeah, you were hoping for some Audre Lorde, said Laura. Actually, yeah, Audre Lorde's probably someone I'll be looking to read this year as well. Toxins in the Wallpaper. I think it could be read as both OXO 1, 2, 3. But it was mostly, I would say, postpartum depression, because in my research into Charlotte P. Gilman, she literally said as much, that was what she was writing about. Yep, Boston Marriages, says Joe. There's a video about Boston Marriages linked below my video about Gertrude Stein, the bio for Gertrude Stein, if you want to go see that. It's by Jessica Kelgren-Fozard, who is a queer, disabled, vintage YouTuber. She's great fun. Check her out. Let's see. I've just ordered a bunch of Octavia Butler on Kindle, says Christina. Excellent. Laura says, for poetry, I was kind of hoping for Sappho. Yeah, Sappho would have been good. We would have got some proper lesbian juiciness there. There's some good recent publications with lots of historical info. Yeah, so yeah, there's lots of people. Rona says, "Be selective in your pals." Yeah, she was all about Emily Dickinson, quality, not quantity. I liked the yellow wallpaper as well, Val. It was really creepy, really interesting. Actually, I bought an entire book of short stories by Charlotte P. Gilman. So that was just one of them. So I'm going to read.
Oh.
I'm going to read the rest of those, hopefully.
See, I did actually buy a copy of the yellow wallpaper rather than, well, I had it on Kindle, and then I bought you know, a hard copy.
It was a good story
as well. Yeah.
So who did you want to turn up but didn't in the 12 months? And this is where I realized I'd messed up, because I think I know who you know.
Oh, okay.
Who were you hoping was going to turn up?
So I've actually got two that I was really hoping was going to turn up. And I don't know, some people might groan at this one, but I wanted Agatha Christie to turn up.
Hey, classic.
I really wanted to read a bit of Agatha, because we've got such a choice, and
oh my god, so much choice.
Yeah, exactly. And I found her really intriguing as a person as well. I remember watching a film about Agatha Christie when she actually disappeared.
Yeah, she has her own mystery. Yeah, that's true.
She did. She disappeared. The film was kind of theorizing about where she actually went. But so that was one. And the other one that I really, really hoped was
oh no, I know who this is.
Was going to turn up. Well, you might not.
Oh, really?
I was really hoping that Virginia Woolf.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I was going to say Janet Frame.
No, I had to pick Virginia Woolf over
Janet Frame. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I didn't know, because I remember saying, if Janet Frame doesn't turn up, we'll tack her on the end. Do you remember?
I do. Yeah.
And I had totally forgotten about that. And I just got to the December and like the end of 2020, yes, and the end of the project, because it had actually been a slog some of the time for me, because gestures wildly at everything. And I'd completely forgotten, and then was like, oh no.
But you know, I mean, yeah, I guess maybe when we spoke about that, I was, you know, are you kind of like weigh things up, and out of the authors, it was those two definitely. Agatha Christie for one, but Virginia Woolf. There's some amazing films about Virginia Woolf, and films of her books as well. You know, I mean, because the other thing is I really liked about it is that she never had any children. But also, like it says in brackets here, child-free and sexually liberated. But also, she did struggle with mental illness during her life as well, and had there's some really real darkness about Virginia Woolf, but that makes it all the more intriguing for me.
Yeah. That surprised me. I wouldn't have pegged you for picking Virginia Woolf. That's really cool. Yeah, because like The Hours is about her, isn't that? With Nicole Kidman, that's about her. I've seen that. I've got that on DVD downstairs actually. But yeah, she's an interesting person. But that's the thing also, like, yeah, we'll get to that in the next question actually. What was the next question?
The next, where are we on?
9. Oh, that was it.
Number 9. What have you learned from this project?
That was it, yes.
What I've learned is that first and foremost, I really try as hard as I might. I do not like poetry. I kind of knew that before, so I avoided poetry for most of my life, really, since school. And so to be in a place where poetry was on the list of kind of like homework reading in order to do the Literary Witch project, it kind of affirmed it in my mind. It's not for me. And I do realize that there's a lot of poetry fans in here, but just not me. The
Yeah.
other thing, the most important thing that I've learned from this project is to really appreciate the wealth of female writers that we're fortunate to be blessed with. Some of which I'd never even heard of, a lot of which I'd never heard of before. And to know that that the struggle has been real for generations, in order for women to be allowed to have their voice, to be independent, to be free from exploitation and misogyny and all those things. We've been fighting about this for all these things for centuries. And we kind of owe it, I think, to all these women to fully appreciate what we have now that some of these didn't have at the time. So that's what I've learned from this project, but also how much of a fight for all those things we still have, despite all this groundwork that has been laid over the years, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. Definitely. Yeah. I would say I've learnt, first and foremost, I can actually stick to something. I started this project, kicked this project off to hold myself accountable, because I don't think I would have stuck to it, especially with everything that went on last year, if I hadn't put it out there on the channel, and B, didn't have someone on board, had you on board to help me hold me accountable, and to have someone to join in with it, and then have everyone else join in. So I kind of, there were a couple of points in the year where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to just call this off because it's too much, because there were points where things were just too much. Or I'll just skip this month, or or some of the research was just, and that goes into the next thing that I learned, was that all of these women, for the most part, not every single one that we read, Gertrude Stein's probably one of them who didn't, but most of these women had suffered greatly. In all different ways, where no matter what their color, no matter what their class, no matter what their health was or their sexuality, so many of these women suffered. And that's that common thread, right? They're all women and are therefore subject to patriarchy and misogyny and the mores of the time, and the way that you're supposed to behave as a woman. And also even right up to, like you were saying, Octavia Butler being a Black woman writing sci-fi, in a white male dominated in a white male dominated world, but also in a white male dominated genre. They all had some hardship to overcome, and it's intense. And I think the last thing I learned was, it's really good to just read out of your comfort zone. Even if you don't enjoy something, you learn what you don't like. For some of these books, if I was just reading them here at home, I wasn't enjoying it, I used to always stick with the book and finish it. And now I'm like, life's too short to read books you're not enjoying. But actually, I'm really glad that I stuck with Eileen Chang's Half a Lifelong Romance, because the first part of it was quite hard to get through, but once it got going, it was pretty soap opera-ish. I quite enjoyed it.
I mean,
the soap opera drama of it all. It was a bit over the top.
She was the other book that I got a hard copy of, because I mean, it was hideous at the beginning. I thought it was like wading through concrete.
It was, wasn't it? it's very dense and very interested in the minutiae of like really unimportant things.
Yeah, I was like, God, get on with it already.
Yeah, get on with it. Like the people in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Get on with it.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's see what other people are saying about what they've learned in this project. Let's scroll back up. This is the scrolling music. Angela Carter's The Magic Toy Shop will always remain a favourite of mine, says Susie. Naomi says, I have the Red Seed Oracle with lots of Sappho quotes. Oh, I didn't know that about the Red Seed Oracle. I guess that makes sense when I think about it. Laura says, I actually don't think I've read any Agatha Christie. I don't think I have. I might have read one when I was in my teens, but I've watched a lot of Agatha Christie, which is kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Naomi says Agatha Christie is her mum's favourite author. Simon said he wanted Virginia Woolf as well. Paper Moon says plenty of authors left for the next series. Series 2, if it happens, would not be happening anytime soon, let me tell you. Kelly Bear needs a break, and I think Becca Bear needs a break as well. Sue says, are there any Brontes in the deck? Yes, Emily Bronte is in the deck. Paper Moon loves the Brontes. Let's see. Meow, 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 meow. Joe says maybe another couple of tarot tubers could take the literary baton for a 12-month literature witch challenge. Do you know what? I actually thought about this. I did think if anyone wanted to take up the baton and carry it for the next 12 months and continue the project and do the bio videos and host the live chats and continue it in this vein, go for it. Like
there's plenty of authors left.
There's still loads of authors left. There are 30. How many are in the book? There are 30 something women. I think it's 30. Let's see. There's loads. Oh, bum holes. It doesn't say how many off the bat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There's a lot.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 28, 29, 30. There's at least 30. Yeah, I think it's 30 writers, and we've done 12.
So you've got for another
18 more writers. We did have a problem where one of them that we were looking at, we couldn't get a hold of their books. They were like really hard to get hold of and like £50 a book because they're not very easy to find. So we had to then pick another writer. But other than that, I don't know. Some of the others might be hard to find as well. But yeah, I would be, if anyone wanted to do that, I don't own, I started it, but people want to carry it on. I mean, I'm not saying I'll never do any more ever again. I might do it in a more unofficial capacity. I don't know.
Have you, I don't know how many, I've been watching our lovely Corvin, and they've done a review of the Hour Tarot.
Yeah, Corvin.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've spoken to Corvin. They were saying that they were actually inspired by this project, and that's why they wanted to do it, because they wanted to dig into these people and these women in this deck, Our Tarot. And that just really tickled me. I just love that they've gone. This project has inspired. It's begat another project. A sproject.
Oh, yeah.
I accidentally made a new one.
I was intrigued by the Hour Tarot as well. I mean, it reminded me of the Literary Witches deck. So that might be a deck that goes on my wish list, I think. Looks really intriguing.
Just seeing what other people are saying. Christy says, Kelly Bay, you put so much into this. Thank you. I have to admit, there were times when I knew I had to sit down and research these bio videos, and some of them I couldn't find much information, so that was like pulling teeth. And some of them there was so much information, some of them I spent 3 or 4 days researching, writing up, and editing notes before I even filmed the videos. Like, oh my God, it was a real labor of love, we shall say. And I say that like it makes it sound like, oh, I'm being amazing, but what I mean is I surprised myself because I have such issues with concentration, and a lot of these women's lives were so harrowing, and you're reading about this awful stuff, and there's a pandemic, and like you're like, oh God, oh my God, it's so bleak.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I struggled with. Some of the books that involved, even when they weren't talking about mental illness, you could feel their mental illness coming through the page almost. And that is, like you say, particularly difficult when everything around you is like going to shit, and then you're reading something depressing at the same time. Yes, maybe a study of the hour tower, says Annette. Well, that's what Corvin is doing.
Yeah, Corvin Raventail Tarot. I'll have
Raventail Tarot.
Yeah, Raventail Tarot. Okay, yeah, I'll try and remember to link their channel below once this is finished, so you can go check that out. I haven't had a chance to dip into that series yet, but it's something I'm very interested in because I just like learning about people. Naomi says that she's become a better reader for this project, which is really cool. Do you mean as in like you found that you've become better at sitting down and reading, Naomi, or that you just feel like you've become a better reader in the sense that you're more willing to read more stuff? Like I found like I have read less in the last 10 years. But up until like I was like 30, a real massive bookworm. And I really did go out of my way because I'd read on my commute to and from work. So I'd get plenty of time to read. I'd just devour books. I'd read through my lunch breaks. I'd read before going to bed. And I was always really proud of myself because I read a lot of like diverse authors. Reading Latin writers. I've read a lot of Japanese and Korean writers. I've read a lot of like South American, Central American, Mexican writers, and sort of like lots of translated stuff. I've read like translations of German writers and stuff like that. But I really had realized that I hadn't really read many like Black writers, especially since school. And I was like, why is this missing? Like obviously this was like a piece missing. Like I'd been meaning to read Octavia Butler for bloody ages. Like she's been on my list. Why didn't I just can pick her up and read her? Like why did it take this long? Really disappointed in myself for that. So as much as I thought I was reading widely, I wasn't reading widely enough. So but oh my God, I have made a list of writers from all walks, and a lot of like writers of color, fiction, and it is so long. I'm like, oh my God, there's just so many books. How do I even get through it? Because more books are being printed all the time, right? There's never going to be enough time to read all the books. But I've really got like a really nice list. I have no excuse now, so I'm going to be sticking to that list going forward.
I've just put a link to Corvin's channel in the chat. So, if you want to go and look at the study of our tarot, then go there.
That's really cool. Thank you for that. Naomi says, I think I'm more willing to look at authors I wouldn't have read. So that's what she means by being a better reader. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, me too.
Christina says, do you think there is a link between mental illness and creativity? For me, no. I think that the idea that artists need to suffer for their art in order to be good artists is really, really toxic, and is responsible for a lot of very early young deaths within creatives. I think everyone can be creative, and actually a lot of the people that I read about during this project, and actually other biographies I've met or other artists that I've spoken to or have read about, have always said they're actually they're more productive when they are well. When people talk about what's his name, Van Gogh, And people talk, oh, but he his stuff was creative and blah blah. And if he wasn't the way he was, his most creative work and his most celebrated work were painted when he was having treatment for his mental illness, when he was getting well. And people forget that when he was getting well, when he was doing better, when he was in a better mental space, his art took on a whole new thing. He was seeing colors that people, so yeah, he was tortured, but people forget his best art was made when he was healing and had, so yeah. So no, I don't think they're linked. I think it's an outlet, but I don't think that there's a link.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, it seems a bit strange, but a lot of the like TV comedians, there's quite a few, some of our greats, like Peter Sellers, for instance, he's the one that springs to mind, that suffered with manic depression for the whole of his life, and yet created some of the some of the best loved comedy scenes. So I don't, that didn't, I don't think it hindered him, and I don't think it improved it either.
That's a really good point to make, because I think people go, well, he was, he did all this despite that, and it's like, yeah, it didn't hinder him, and it didn't make him better either. It was an outlet. Like, people who are not creative have mental health issues as well.
Yeah.
And actually, there's an argument to be made that, there was that thing, you don't have to be good at writing. You don't have to be good at painting or dancing or playing music or singing. You don't have to be good at it. It's just for the joy of doing it. Just paint, just sing, just dance if you can move your body in any way that you can, if you're able to. Just do the thing for the joy of doing it, and don't feel like you have to somehow turn it into a hobby or be good at it or turn it into a side hustle, because creativity is a really great outlet for humans, and to me it's just a form of play, dancing and singing, and it's just play. And I think a lot of people put people into categories. They're an artist, and they're a scientist, and they're an office bod, and actually we contain multitudes. You can be an artist and you could be an accountant, like look at what's his name? Einstein. He was a patent clerk whilst he was beavering away doing his other stuff, because he could just switch his mind off, do his job, and then go and bugger off and do all his like scribblings, because he didn't have to,
And you think of like more modern, people that are on the TV now, like he's not on so much now, but Harry Hill, the comedian Harry Hill, was a GP.
Yep. There was someone who I was watching who's a comedian who used to be a teacher. Like loads of them had careers before they even became, famous. So yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, people saying they've got very long to read lists. Yes. Jo Brand was a nurse. Yeah, she was. I love Jo Brand. Let's see if there's just trying to see, there was something else that someone had said. Rona says a lot of artists and creative people are very sensitive. Yeah, but then I'm saying that loads of people that are not creatives and artists are sensitive. I think it's a trope. Like I know plenty of people that are not creative people that are actually sensitive. And I think because if you're a creative person, you're viewed as sensitive because you're putting your heart into your work. Whereas if you're an accountant, you don't go, oh, this person is pouring their heart into this month's review, monetary review, whatever accountants do, because it's seen as less. But they might do, right? They might go into the kitchen in their lunch break and have a little bit of a cry because they're like, someone's upset them.
And it's amazing how many artists that, past and present, that are painfully shy people or introverted people. And some, interviewers will say, well, how can you say you're an introvert when you're on stage doing all this stuff? And, you know, the answer usually is, well, you know, that is a part of me. I'm introvert, but this is my, I'm not going to say art, but this is part of that as well. Like you say, an outlet, being everything really. Like, it's like actors, they dress up as another person. They pretend, you know, they go into character and are another person and play it brilliantly. And it can be so far.
You go, there's that word again. They play it differently.
And it can, you know, the character that they play can be so far removed from the person that they actually are, yet they still give a convincing performance.
Exactly. And Laura makes a really good point. She says, how can we even assess you're not creative or you are? Like, you know, I feel like you can take a creative approach to anything, really, which you can, right? You can, I think to me, creative doesn't necessarily mean, you know, playing an instrument or writing a song or dancing or making art or writing poetry or whatever. Creative is a way of thinking, right? Like, you can take a creative approach to problem solving, to, you know, a creative approach to, you've got a few things in your fridge, your cupboard's running a bit bare, you use your creativity to come up with something to eat. Like, humans are ingenious and creative. It's part of our, like, I think we all can draw on our creative side, and that needs to be nurtured. And I think this putting people in boxes sort of doesn't do us any favors in that sense. Like, so Sue says, some are creative computer programmers, right? You know, it's all Rona says, my husband is in IT and he's very sensitive. So we are complex people.
They might leave the office, leave the estate agent's office or solicitor's office, close the door, lock the door, and head off to the Amateur Dramatic Society.
Yeah, and we know that happens, right?
Straight afterwards, you know, to unwind with their friends.
Yeah, you find out that people have all sorts of interests, whether it's tarot or, you know, writing or belly dancing. Like, people are into all sorts of stuff. And I love that when you find out like a little something about someone that seems so left of field, but then you realize like everyone is just this mishmash of all these like different things. Like, it's really cool. So so it's 10:15 where we are. We've been on for an hour and 17 minutes. To be precise.
That's gone fast.
It has gone quickly. I was worried that I wouldn't have enough questions to fill the hour, and we went over the hour.
We can always natter.
We can always do it. Neem says, my creative side must be suppressed for work, but hopefully not at all times, Neem. So yeah, we contain multitudes, because what did Rona say? We are, I don't know. But yeah, thank you to everyone who joins this live chat tonight or today, depending on where you are in the world, I guess, or tomorrow if you're in Australia. Thank you to everyone that's joined us along the way. It's been quite a ride. 2020 was quite a thing, wasn't it? And I just want to say again, I know I said it in the last live chat, but thank you so much, Becca, for agreeing to do this with me, for doing these live chats, for giving up your usual live chat slot for this, for doing these. It means so much to me, and you really helped keep this project going, and really just had so many interesting insights. Like, that's what I've enjoyed. You would say so. You've had these. You've commented on some of these poems or these stories or these writers with things that hadn't even popped into my head, and that's why it's so good to have the like bouncing these different ideas and thoughts off. You know. So thank you so much.
It's been nice. It's been nice having that time to just sort of like sit down and discuss. Even like you say, even when at different times we haven't felt like it, or the book's been like, oh no, how am I going to get through this in 4 weeks? But yeah, It's been great. I've really enjoyed it, despite all the poetry. I have enjoyed it.
Despite all the poetry, and I've enjoyed it despite some of the research for the bio videos was intense, to say the least.
You've done a lot of hard work.
I think what just made it trickier was that there was a pandemic going on at the same time, which made it everything feel a bit heavier at times. But I'm glad I didn't cancel any of them.
Yeah, I'm glad too. Yeah,
we did it. So so let's
miss one.
Sorry, didn't miss one. No. So this has been the Literary Witches Project 2020, inspired by the book and deck. I want to put a shout out again to Tasia Kateskia and Katie Horan, who did the illustrations, and Seal Press. Without this book, without this deck, this project wouldn't have existed. And what a great selection of writers we have in here. Just really great. And great. I love the artwork. Katie Horan's artwork is amazing. Give them both a follow on Instagram. They're great. And I know that Tasia's got a couple of other really great books out. There's Ask Baba Yaga, which I would quite like to get. I think that came out last year or the end of 2019. I can't remember. But so without that, we wouldn't even have this project. So big shout out to them. So and congratulations to all of us. We did it. I would drink to that, but I've only got an empty teacup, so never mind.
And I've only got a little bit of water, which isn't very exciting. So, but anyway, cheers, Kelly Bear.
Cheers, Becca, and cheers to everyone else. You all take care of yourselves, look after yourself, stay safe. Thank you again for joining us for this intense and enjoyable and wibbly wobbly up and down project. And see you next time I see you.
Okay.
Bye. Bye. Ciao.